Hey guys, I'm Mr. Junior here, aka Mustached, and I'm here to review Arlo The Alligator Boy. If you end up enjoying this review, then consider joining my Patreon page. There'll be the second link in the description below. And I'll set a second reminder at the end of this review. So, with the shilling out of the way, let's talk about Arlo The Alligator Boy. So, as you could probably see, I'm a little late on this one. It came on April 16th this year. But I didn't know about this movie until I saw a few videos popping up about it on YouTube already. So, here I am, finally have seen the movie now, and I'll go over the recap and try to be as objective as I possibly can be within the context. So, we follow a young Arlo way back when he was a baby floating down a river. And we follow him for quite some time as he eventually pops up near this old lady's home. This old woman takes him in and raises him for quite a few years. Presumably like 10 to 12 years, as that would be the age range of boy, I guess. Although, I don't know if they equivocate to human and alligator years, actually. I'm not sure, but I'll say for assumption's sake that it's probably close-ish. Anywho, as Arlo grows up, the old woman tells him, that he calls his mom at this point, that he's told the truth that his father is somewhere out there, and that the last location that has been talked about in regards to that in the birth certificate that was hidden from him is in New York. So, Arlo, after doing a first musical number, seeing that this is a musical song, indicates that he is very optimistic and willing to go up there and be accepted by this person who is his father. So he is finally allowed to leave and does so. However, as he proceeds into the town, or one of these little towns, he is caught on by quite a few people in this town, in particular these two people who are really interested in the money that they could possibly make from him if they hunt him down and sort of use him as, I guess, a display of sorts. So they're on the hunt, and Arlo is making his way, running from these people. They eventually catch up to him pretty quickly, as these two have quite the source on their side that tells them about where Arlo's location is, and then they quickly catch up to him. So, as Arlo perceives a dangerous situation, he's saved by this bigger lady on the back of the poster here, named Birdie. I would say, out of the rest of the crew, she's the most outspoken of them, and has quite the closest journey to this character as they initially start together. From this point moving forward. So she essentially saves him, and they end up riding the train further out, but the two people that are hunting them are not going to give up quite yet. So they end up in this new area where we meet some of the newer characters, the Tiny Mouse character, the Hairball lady character, and then the tiger cat character there as well. These three are running sort of a scam where they're making some money by having the Hairball character lose a fight, and then, people would bet, and then they would do the whole "it's a trap" and get swindled. So Arlo eventually bumps into them and sort of escapes with them at the quickened point, and they are joined by the cat for their little escape. So now the four of them are journeying together, and Arlo's talking about how much he wants to meet his dad, and how much he already appreciates Birdie as a friend. And Birdie, throughout the movie, or at least the first half-ish point of the movie, is always discussing about how she feels like she needs to constantly move, and feels left out, and feels way more of an outcast due to her size and stature. But nonetheless, Arlo is way more optimistic. And of course, we have a few more musical numbers along the way through their journey. The three of them tell of their fish friend you see there, the one with the human lower body, probably the oddest character design of the bunch. But they end up saving him from this aquarium, where he's been stared at for such a long time. So they let him out, and they escape, and eventually reach New York. It is here, where Arlo and company now, finding a newfound friendship with each other, singing again a few more songs along the way, Arlo sees this little news update that is happening where they are introduced to quote-unquote Arlo's father. Now, for the sake of simplicity, yes, this is Arlo's father indeed. However, as of currently right now, the character does look very humanoid, which does raise a lot of questions, particularly in the, biology sense of, well, how would a human give birth to an alligator? I don't know. So, that raises, again, those types of questions, and Arlo is curious enough to go out there and reach this individual that is his father. And we also learn that the father is very, very rich. He happens to be an entrepreneur of sorts. I'm not sure what his business is. I don't think it really ever specifies. Even the montage of him telling his story kind of skims over that he made some sort of deal, and then he was just given a lot of money. So eventually, through Tiny Tony Mouse, I forget his name, I think it's like Tiny Tony or something like that, uses his connections to find out where this father figure is, and thus they proceed to end up in front of this large hotel. So Arlo is let in, and they've assumed that he's going to have a trouble getting inside, but he's actually let in quite easily after telling his little story. So he's led upstairs, and he's led up to his so-called father, who again currently looks like a human, and even the father figure appears to be very distant, and tries to imply that Arlo should change his look very physically, in a sense, to sort of gain this this sense of inclusion that he's sort of been seeking. But by the end of his little shared song about how he made so much money, again, through that montage we see that he just sort of made some deals, I guess, he eventually says that he is not the father, and this leads Arlo to a depressed state to where he ends up back in the water and floating back down the stream, following it after I think it's the last song in the movie, or close to it. And he proceeds to end up where the others were nearby. I think if he had kept going, he would have ended up eventually back at his old house, but he ends up finding his friends first. The Birdie character sees the conch shell piece that they ripped off for each other, or he ripped off for the two of them. And the two proceed to look at the area that they're currently in, and Arlo notices that it is part of his quote-unquote father's plan, but the father is intending to knock it down and rebuild something completely different. However, Arlo sees some beauty in what is already here, even though if it is a bit run down. So, Birdie inspires him to try one last time to know the truth, and we are also getting this on the cusp of the father's announcement that he's going to make to gain more money to make this project a possibility. But Arlo and gang are invite themselves into this party. They sort of party crash in their own style. And eventually, during the father's speech, Arlo interrupts. Oh, and this is another song between the two of them that they share. And after the fact, the father, seeing that things have gone not in the way he expected and sees that Arlo still came back, he decides to reveal Arlo the truth, which is a little bit confusing, but we end up learning that he's a bird person, a mixture of a boy, or was a boy, and a bird, and then he grew up, and then he hid the parts of him that made him look more like a bird. He wore the coat, which hid the wings, and he wore pants and shoes to hide his little claw-like talons. Again, biology, question mark. It does show the mother in a silhouette, so my assumption, again, since it's based off of a silhouette, I'm assuming that the mother is more likely, well, an alligator. Unless biology in this universe is non-existent, but whatever. Anywho, so the two of them finally reunite, and Arlo wants to be accepted, and is so, and a lot of them see, and after hearing the father's speech, say that this place was nice when they were hanging around there. Why not actually go back there and actually spend some working elbow grease to fix it up instead of tearing it completely down? So they're only refurnishing it instead of completely destroying it and then rebuilding. So they do that, and they proceed to just sort of hang out there, and at the end of the movie, Arlo sends one last postcard to his mother, and that is how the movie essentially ends. So I believe there are about 3 or 4 songs, or even 5, I wasn't keeping track, and it was a pleasure to see a 2D animated film. I think it's been a bit since, I can't recall the last 2D animated film I've seen, but apparently this has already been announced to have after this little movie at some point later on this year, apparently, there will be a series called I Heart Arlo. I'm not sure exactly when that's coming into Netflix, but I am going to be looking forward to it, as I did enjoy this movie. I will say, in terms of flaws, I would say the pacing does definitely seem to be the thing that is rushed the most. This movie is moving, and I mean moving really fast. We're moving from set piece to set piece, and we're kind of brushing along these characters. The one, again, that gets the most in this, besides Arlo, obviously, as I mentioned, is Birdie. The others get a little bit here. I would say out of the lot of them, the cat probably gets the least amount to do in this movie. So hopefully this little series that will be continuing on their little misadventures will probably expand on the rest of them. So there is that to look forward to, I suppose. But as in terms of this movie, again, the pacing definitely does seem to be a little bit rushed here. The music is definitely really, really good. The characterization, you have Arlo being optimistic and being challenged through that optimism when he learns the truth about his father and having his hopes crushed and needing that support at that point in time when he needed it the most, and having those friends that he made along the way. to reinvigorate him, to regain that composure, regain that optimism that he carries. And again, Birdie to compensate for that. I can't tell if they were trying to hint at a quote-unquote romantic interest. They do remain as friends in this movie, but there does seem to be some sort of hint that there's some sort of interest from Arlo in that perspective. It's very, very minor, if anything, so I'm assuming they're just gonna say friends. I actually thought it was gonna completely go a different direction. I thought, as soon as I saw the feline character, I thought that was gonna be a more romantic interest for Arlo, if that was going to be where they were going to go. But again, as I mentioned, the cat has the least amount of material. The only bit that she has in this movie is driving the car and then not driving the car while it's still moving. Outside of that, she doesn't really get much. The hairball character is very fashion-based, I guess, is the best way I can put it, and very diva-esque, I suppose. The mouse character is very, well, I'll just say Italian, I guess, or at least carries a lot of the cliches of Italian, even with the mustache and everything, having the connections. The fish dude, again, seems the most out of place in terms of both design and what he's kind of doing there. After, being captured or whatever for like however long he was there, he seems to just simply insist that he keeps creeping people out. So these characters, by comparison to both of the main leads, are very static in what they're doing in this movie. And of course you have the mini arc of the father, but that's very geared toward the end of the movie and from the point that we meet him. And again, that happens at the mid-halfway point of the movie. So again, the pacing is really, really quick from that point to that point. And so, I do want to see a little bit more of these characters being fleshed out in this little series that they got going on. In terms of this movie, if I were to give it a score, I'd probably say I enjoyed it on an average level, like a 7 out of 10. In terms of the complaints, I'm not sure if the pacing would necessarily drop it down to a 6 per se. Even the characters being static, I could tell that they were more side characters, so I didn't mind that as much. I didn't find it as much as a flaw of the movie. Again, I'm trying to be objective. If you're introducing static characters, I think that's totally fine. So yeah, we have, the characters we're focusing on and so on and so forth. So I would still argue for a 7 out of 10 in terms of being solid. Not anything too exceptional. I'd probably say the music's probably what could even boost it up to a potential 8 out of 10, I would say. The music's really good. And the animation, especially during the sewer song, is really solid, what they're able to draw in that style. So yeah, really definitely enjoyed it. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Look forward to the series if you end up enjoying this movie when it does come out. And with that, that is my review of Arlo the Alligator Boy. And if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server. The second will lead you over to my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye!